Hello and welcome to Tales from the Schiz, where I tell you a story about my life with schizoaffective disorder and sometimes make you laugh in the process. But don't romanticize it, being schizoaffective sucks a lot. Today's tale takes place all the way back in college, which was a very stressful time for me. The summer of my junior year, I decided to take a Maymester, which meant that I would be covering a semester's worth of material in 2.5 weeks. And what class did I take? Biochemistry. For those of you that don't know, I used to be pre-med and graduated with a biology degree, so naturally biochemistry was a part of that. And while I was no stranger to stress when it came to my STEM classes, this one caused me a little bit of extra anxiety. So naturally, my schizoaffective brain decided to have symptoms. I hear voices as part of my schizoaffective disorder, and sometimes when I'm in stressful situations, new voices will pop up out of nowhere. At this point in my life, I did have a constant voice in my head who went by the name Orion, and he was basically my life companion. We did everything together. But another voice soon added itself to my headspace about halfway through this Maymester. And keep in mind, at this point in my life, I didn't know that I was hearing voices. I just thought I was thinking creatively. And the further you get through this video, the more you'll realize just how much denial I was in. Anyways, I was on the way back from the library late one night. I was feeling rather despondent and negative, when suddenly a woman's voice started yelling at me inside my head. We are talking full-on screaming within my skull. And it was so loud and so abrupt. But it wasn't insults. It wasn't anything mean. It was purely encouragement. Yes, encouragement. And she was shouting it at the top of her lungs. You're totally gonna nail that quiz and pass your exam. You'll get through this class and you'll be one step closer to medical school. Kit, you're gonna be a doctor! But even with their inner nature, meaning I was hearing this voice in the same headspace as I hear my own thoughts, this new character still had volume. And I cannot describe to another human being who doesn't have internal hallucinations what this is like. Because my brain was reacting to this voice in the same way that it would if someone was next to me yelling directly into my ear. Even if it's all coming from the inside of my head. And with that, due to the nature of that volume, I couldn't ignore her at all. So this whole thing was rather distracting, even if it was a loud pep talk that was arguably positive for me. But I tried in vain to get her to calm down by thinking back at her. And Orion even tried to calm her down as well, but he couldn't do it either. So the cycle quickly became that she would shout a loud pep talk. I'd tell her to, geez, please stop doing this. She'd acknowledge me and then continue to do her thing. So eventually I gave up on my crappy attempts to mask, pulled over on the side of the sidewalk, and decided to just talk to her out loud, just in an effort to get through to her. Because I couldn't keep doing this. My head felt like it was going to explode. An inner conversation with her was not enough to make her stop, and I was starting to flinch every single time she spoke just because she was that loud. So out loud and hopefully alone, frankly I didn't care, but I'd like to think I was alone, I told her to please stop screaming at me. Even if her words were kind. And I did thank her for those words because arguably they were pretty awesome, but told her that it would help me more if she would quiet down a bit. And after a brief exchange, meaning yes, I actually got through to her, she gives me the general idea that she gets so into motivating me that she can't help but raise her voice in the process. She said this like she'd been doing this for years, even though she had just showed up. Voices can be weird. We ended up compromising, which meant that really she could get into her max motivation mode for short periods, but not while I was studying or trying to take an exam. This didn't always go as planned, but it was a start. And I want to point out here that this isn't unusual for me. My voices, the nature of them is that they are conversational. So I tend to interact with them when they show up, and they tend to interact with me too. And with that, they can be negotiated with sometimes, and then they remember those negotiations when they come back. Don't ask me how it works. I have absolutely no idea. This is just how it is for me. But she then told me that her name was Shira, and I said it was nice to meet her. And I would go on to hear her on and off for years. To this day, Shira is still one of my favorites, and she was a regular for a long time. We eventually got to the point where she wouldn't yell her words too often. And I actually ended up looking forward to her hype sessions when she was around. Like rolling up to a final exam with a hype squad in your head? Honestly, kind of awesome. She's still my biggest motivational speaker when it comes to my voices. And like all my other kind friends, because they're my friends, I miss her when she's not around. I also totally went on to do more than just pass biochemistry and had one of the best summers of my life. And Shira has definitely helped me through a lot over the years. And I'm super grateful for the unwavering nature of her cheering through the rest of my college experience. And that's Tales from the Skits. And if you want to hear more storytime segments like this one, check out the Tales from the Skits playlist right over here. But other than that, thanks for joining me and making the uncomfortable comfortable. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.